Hello, I'm Joshua Farnsworth and welcome to my traditional woodworking school. In this video, one of our instructors, Will Myers, is going to show how to cut a notch out of a board using woodworking hand tools. This is part of his video on building the historical Isaac Young's shaker wall clock. So I think you'll really enjoy this simple tutorial, and if you're interested in learning how to build an amazing clock using simple steps, this will be perfect for you. Thanks for watching.
We're getting close to being ready to assemble the case here. It doesn't take long. We just nails together, but anything we can do ahead of time is better. It's easier to handle, easier to do some of this stuff. So this is one of those things. And this is we're going to be cutting a notch here in the top board where that little half round hanger for the clock comes through, because that is part of the backboard and it just extends straight through the top. So we're going to cut that real quick. And not much to it really. Just be sure I've got this one labeled top, so I know I'm on the right one. And I'm just going to clamp it up there. And I need to I'm just going to use my 2 gauge marks, or I can use the ends. This piece is 11. We'll just use the ends. So we know that should be about 5.5. Okay, I'm going to turn my rule around and double check that at 5.5, and that looks good. That looks like the center. So I'm going to knife that in right there as soon as I find my knife, even though this is going to be cut away here in just a moment. Okay, the little projection for the hanger there is 4 5/8, and so we need to split that in half and mark that. And then I'm going to come back here and double check that as well. That looks good. Half of that's 2 5/16, so we want that to, of course, go pretty much through the center. If it was a tiny bit off one way or the other, we're going to trace this slot onto the backboard once the case is assembled. So, but if it was off center much, it wouldn't look very good. So I've knifed either end in. And just before I keep going, I'm going to double check myself. Sometimes I look at something and it looks wrong, and like right there, that's the case. So even though it wasn't, just maybe I'm getting paranoid. So I'm going to knife these over a little ways here, and the backboard's only 1/2 inch thick like the rest of it, but I'm going to go a little past 1/2 inch. Okay, you're thinking, well, that's going to stay, right? That's going to be in the final clock. The originals on his layouts on a lot of this stuff, there's knife marks everywhere, and this is one of them that just a gauge mark or a knife mark on a face side was not a huge deal to them. So now I've got my length here. I'll trace it around onto the top, and I can darken those in a little bit. Might help a little bit, wouldn't it? And so now I need to know my depth. And what I'm going to use is I'm just going to take my backboard right here, and I've already roughly set that gauge, and it's pretty good there. So I'm going to use the backboard itself to set my gauge depth right there, my 1/2 inch between the knife and the fence. And the reason I'm using the board itself is just in case it could be a little bit thick or a little bit thin, so, and that's okay. So now I'm going to take that same cutting gauge here, and I'm going to knife that in. Nice and deep right there. Same thing on the bottom here. Okay, so now this is waste. This needs to come out. We've got to excavate that. Simplest way to do that is just saw and chisel. Just takes a couple of minutes. So I've got switch saws. This time I got a little cross-cut back saw that a little faster than the dovetail saw, but dovetail saw would work. Let me get over here. I'm going to cut right on the inside of this line. Now on the top side, if I overcut a little bit on the back, doesn't matter. But on this top side, you can see it. So kind of watch, try not to go past your gauge mark down there. And then I'm going to come back through here and make just a few little kind of relief, or not relief cuts, just to help us break this these chunks up, break this waste up and get it out of there. Okay, that's not too bad. So now we're going to just chisel and mallet here, and we're going to start kind of slow, even though we've got this cut up in pretty small chunks. You see what happened right there? That one broke all the way to the line. See right there, just off the line. So that's really was not the desired result there. So don't take too big of a bite. This right here is the grain seems to be running pretty straight right here, so that'll help us. And I've got the bevel down, and I'm just splitting the waste out. I'm actually going to switch to just hand pressure right here. Then come back around. Same thing. And I've still got the bevel down. The reason is I can control it. If I start to run down deep, I can lower the handle and run the cut back up to a point, unless the grain happens to be real bad, and then it might just keep going the way you didn't want it to anyway. So I'm down there real close to my line. Get a little bit more of this out of here. Well, I guess I could have went a little farther that way. Okay. And then I kind of finish up, and this is going to be, I'm right-handed, and this is hard to, I usually start from the top right here and kind of pair a little bit of a diagonal across there and just sneak right up on that line. And oftentimes this underside, I may undercut it just a little bit. That way I know it's not protruding out. I want a good tight fit here, but if it's a little bit open on the inside, I'm sure Mr. Young's clocks weren't, but for me, that's okay. He was very much a perfectionist. You tell by a lot of his writings, he agonized over. Oftentimes, it kind of seemed kind of silly to me, but it wasn't to him. So, but he was very much a perfectionist on stuff. But then again, somebody that can make wooden clockworks, make them work. I mean, gosh, you're gonna have to be pretty much a perfectionist. So there we go. We've got our little notch cut out there, and so now what I'm going to do next, we'll get the stuff out and get ready to pre-bore these and be ready to nail it here in just a minute. So we'll get this case together.
If you're interested in learning traditional woodworking, come take a class at our school in Earlysville, Virginia. You can also visit our website at woodandshop.com, where you'll find a bunch of free woodworking lessons, workshop tours, and our very popular tool buying guides. And make sure you subscribe to our free newsletter to get our latest articles and videos. Enjoy!